Hi everybody, today we're going to be making sticky pork belly bao buns. But before we start, we need to do a few things. My hair needs to be up, apron on, some clean tea towels, remove my nail polish and wash my hands. So let's go. Okay, so here we are. Now it's time to get our ingredients out. We're going to be making the bao buns first. So you're going to need some plain flour, caster sugar, some baking powder, yeast, milk. I'm using canola oil instead of sunflower oil because I don't have sunflower oil, and some spray oil. So get them out, get your equipment out so that you can start measuring accurately. So I have a medium-sized bowl and my sifter, and I've just weighed out 125 grams of plain flour. That can go straight in there. You need 2 teaspoons of caster sugar in there as well. That will help feed the yeast so that it will ferment and multiply and make your buns be nice and light and fluffy. A half a teaspoon of baking powder. So just remember to scrape off, level it off each time. And you need 1 teaspoon of dried yeast. We sift them into the bowl and then we can measure out our liquid ingredients. In a jug, you need to measure out 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of milk. You need 2 teaspoons of oil. And you need 50 ml of warm water. I ran the tap for a little minute to make it nice and hot. 50 ml of warm water into there as well. Then, using a butter knife, make a well in the centre. Pour your liquid ingredients in all at once. And mix them together until the liquid absorbs into the flour. Then transfer onto a clean bench. And you have to knead it for 5 minutes. So set your timer. Hey Google, set timer for 5 minutes. And as you're kneading, remember,
5 minutes, and we're starting now.
Fold it towards you, press it down, quarter of a turn. Fold it towards you, press it down, quarter of a turn. Do that for 5 minutes, and you might need a little bit of extra flour if it gets sticky as you go. So my 5 minutes is nearly up. Really important that you make sure you do it for the full 5 minutes. It helps develop the gluten and helps create that beautiful smooth texture of the dough. Once your 5 minutes is up, you'll need a new clean bowl. Spray it with oil, and then we need to set this dough aside for about an hour for it to prove, and then it will double in size. Hey Google, stop. Put this in a warm place and start getting out your ingredients for the pork. Okay, for the next part we need to prepare and cook the pork belly. Now if you don't want to use pork belly, you can use chicken. For a vegetarian option you can use tofu, or you could also use beef or fish if you wanted to as well. So it's quite versatile if you don't want to use pork. Now for the pork, I have 400 grams here, and we need to slice it into some strips. And then you'll notice at the top there's that thick piece of rind. You need to remove that. So just lay it down flat and then just remove that. You can leave the fat on, that will add flavour a little bit later when we cook it. But just remember to cut away from yourself, and that can go into the rubbish bin. Once you've done it, make sure you've cut your pork into 6 kind of strips. If you're using chicken, I think chicken thigh fillet would work well, so maybe have 1 chicken thigh fillet in half for each bao bun, and same with maybe steak or whatever. So you basically need 1 strip per bao bun. Okay, now I'm going to measure out the ingredients for the sauce. For the sauce, you need 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. I'm going to put that directly into the saucepan that I'm going to be using. You also need to have 1 garlic clove. So you just prepare that as normal, and you'll need a microplane grater for that. I've peeled my garlic and now just grating it on the microplane grater. Give it a sharp tap, let's get it off. And then I'm just going to place it into a little container. Ginger, cut that off, and then with a peeler, you can peel it, or you can use a knife just to cut away that dark skin. To get into the dark corners, I just cut it into a smaller piece and then just trim off or peel off those extra little bits. Then using the microplane grater, just grate it nice and finely. Watch your fingers as you get close. And transfer into a little dish or just set aside. For some liquid ingredients, you need 50 ml of the Shaoxing wine. And I'm just going to top that up to 100 ml with water. So there's now 50 ml of Shaoxing rice wine and 50 ml of water in this jug. And I'm adding a tablespoon of the soy sauce. And just 1 little sprinkle of the Chinese 5-spice. Now that I have all the ingredients prepared for the pork and the sauce that goes with it, I'm actually going to come back now to my bao buns, and I'm going to roll them out and start them cooking before I cook up the pork. Make sure you wipe your bench down really, really well. You've been cutting pork and other things on here, and then dry it down with a paper towel so it is clean and dry, ready to roll out your dough. So I'm going to pop the dough out onto the bench and roll it into a sausage shape. And then I'm going to cut it into 6 portions. So in half. Be careful you don't scratch your kitchen bench. Maybe a chopping board would be useful here. And into 6 pieces. I'm now going to roll each piece into a ball, and then with a rolling pin, roll it out to an oval shape, and then just place it on a piece of baking paper. Then with a bit of oil spray, lightly spray each one, and then fold them over in half. And we let them prove for another 30 minutes. While the buns are proving, I'm now going to prepare my serving ingredients. So I'm using some cucumber. The recipe says Lebanese cucumber. I'm just using traditional. I have some coriander leaves. I have some fresh chilies here as well. I might dice some up, and just some cherry tomatoes. You could also have spring onions. I don't have any, so if you have some, you can put them on to serve as well. So pretty much have a look in your fridge, see what you have, and you can get creative. So first of all, with the cucumber, I'm going to cut that in half and then cut these into battens. So slice them one way, so like little matchsticks. Keep your fingers curled under, and you can see my chopping board's wiggling around a little bit. So it's probably a good idea to put a damp dishcloth or a non-slip mat underneath there to avoid that. So I'm just putting my little non-slip mat under now. That makes it much safer for when we're cutting, won't move around. Then just slice it back the other way. With the cherry tomatoes, I'm just going to slice them long ways. With the chili, I've just cut off a small piece, and I'll just dice that up nice and finely as well. If you don't want it too hot, you can remove the seeds, or leave it out altogether if you don't want chili on it. With the coriander, wash it and then pat it dry with some paper towel. Now, Coriander is optional. I know not everybody likes coriander. It's quite a controversial herb. So if you don't like it, don't use it. If you do like it, go for it. Wash it, pat it dry, and then just remove the leaves, and we'll keep them aside ready for serving. So we're now over at the stove top ready to do all the cooking. Now I have my steamer over here with this much water in the bottom, and that's heating up and starting to simmer. And in this top section is where I'm going to place my pork bao. Sorry, just the buns. So I've got my bun here, and staying on the baking paper, I'm just going to sit that in there. Now my steamer is quite small, so I can really only fit 2 at a time. Lid on, and then set the timer for 15 minutes. For the pork, I'm going to preheat my pan. I've got it on a medium to high heat. Some olive oil in the bottom, or you can use the sunflower oil from before. And once that's warm, just swirl the pan. You can place your pork in. And this needs to cook for 3 minutes each side till it's nice and golden brown colour. Once it looks like that, turn it over and cook the other side. Okay, when it's cooked, transfer it onto a plate. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit, and I'm going to add my brown sugar and stir that till it dissolves and melts. For about 1 minute. Then add the garlic, ginger and the star anise, and that needs to cook for 30 seconds. Try and break up the ginger and the garlic and spread it around. Then you add your liquid ingredients. Just be careful it doesn't stick. And you bring that to the boil. Then add the pork back in, and then that needs to cook for 5 minutes. What will happen is that sauce will thicken and become like a nice thick glaze. Okay, my buns are now ready, so I'm just going to lift that up and with a clean plate, take them out. Be careful not to burn yourself. And they're ready to serve. While the pork is cooking in the sauce, just turn it every now and then so that it coats and is basted in that sauce. Okay, I'm ready to serve it up now. So if we just have a look down here, you can leave the pork in large pieces like that, but we are finding that it is easier to eat if you dice it up first. Then the bao buns just open up like that. You can just spoon the pork in. A bit. Then you can serve it with tomato, cucumber, a bit of chili, coriander if you wish. You have your sticky pork belly bao buns. They're absolutely delicious, and have a go, have some fun. Make sure you clean up in between each little section so that you don't have a massive mess at the end. Happy cooking, everybody.